All right, so to kick this off today, what we're doing today is we're gonna be talking to Donald Cleary. Donald Cleary is a person who put this group together, and one of the reasons why he has put this group together is to get a group of like-minded professionals from the Black community, and he just wanted to share his experiences as well as share the reasons behind why he formed this group and perhaps explain the mission of this group. So I'm going to invite Mr. Cleary to join us. So Donald Cleary, welcome to our
Hey
talk on
Miguel.
international education.
Hey Miguel, how you doing?
Yes. So Donald, nice to see you, man. You're looking quite well. Yeah.
No man, the lockdown. This is the lockdown beard. But yeah. Thanks, Miguel.
Yeah. So just Donald, just before we get into it, Donald is quite an experienced international educator. And just as you see here, Donald is worked in a number of countries as an international educator. And even when he was in Jamaica, he was working with international students. Donald, can you give us a brief synopsis of your experience, just to give an idea to the viewers about what's going on with you?
Oh well, okay. I'll limit it to the international scene, really. I started teaching IB in Jamaica at Hillard Academy. And that created a platform or a space for me to gain the experience and the experience I needed to venture off. My first foray into international teaching was in Saudi Arabia. But to get to Saudi Arabia, I probably sent out maybe 500 applications. Maybe after the first 50, maybe before I got the first positive response. But the process to get to Saudi Arabia was so difficult. But the subsequent jobs, because in Oman, I got to Oman because you were there and you networked me into Oman. El Salvador, I was networked in by a good friend that I worked in Saudi Arabia with, Joel, and then Jordan. Again, went to a workshop, met Nadia Abdullah, and networked with her, and she got me into Jordan. So my 3 subsequent jobs were very easy to get because I knew someone who worked at the school who was willing to say, yeah, I know this guy, he's a good teacher. But the first one was such a difficult process. To get to Saudi Arabia, I cannot begin to count the amount of interviews and job applications and all the things I had to do to get there. But here's the thing, when I got into the international teaching scene, I realized that, the point I should have made is that all of these jobs that I got, all 4 of them, I got them in April or May. I never got any of these jobs early, right? Initially, it didn't matter to me. I wasn't even thinking about it because, it's a job. Yeah, I'm happy. But then, having now been in the international scene for over 10 years, I realized that this idea of myself getting jobs late, it's not unique to me. The term that Joel and I use, we coin it, we call it Negro time. Because it seems like there's a time period where our resumes now become attractive. They're actually looking at it because maybe the persons who they actually wanted initially are no longer coming, are no longer interested. So I'm thinking now that we could create our own space where we can have these where I can say, based on someone you've recommended to me, Miguel, that person, we can help that person. So creating a vast network that is actually beneficial to a lot of qualified people who just probably won't get the nod because their resume doesn't have the face that is the initial response.
Okay, so for that reason, you said you maybe need to put your headphones in because it's creating a feedback.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So so that should be better. You were in a number of countries, and what you're saying is that you had to rely on the network in order to move around, and you also noticed a pattern that emerged where certain people were getting. You find that employment offers were coming in later on in the year. So you went and said you're going to form this group called Black International Educators. What's the overriding idea behind this group?
Well, I mean,
to be honest, as I said before, when I mentioned Negro time, it's literally that I find that Black educators, regardless of how qualified they are, regardless of how experienced they are, seem to be the ones that are not necessarily looked on earlier. And I think part of that is, just looking on paper, employers are looking for the persons that they think are best suited. But I think if we can create this environment where we can be the ones who network each other into jobs, I think it would be a better, we all could benefit from it. That's the thinking. So I am part of other international education groups, and I see how they work generally. And they're very, they work in a similar way in the way I'm thinking about this group. But I am trying to help a particular demographic that I think is the minority out there in some respects, at least in international teaching. But and a lot of times when you're the minority, you're not really the one that is looked at initially.
Yeah. So when you say the demographic that you're looking at, could you give us a little bit of a description about what that demographic looks like in your group, Black International Education?
I guess the term I'd probably use is people of color. That's probably the way I'd look at it, because there are Arab teachers in the group, there are Latinos in the group, there are African Americans in the group, there are Caribbean people in the group so far. I think the group is open to anyone who's comfortable with the idea of being in a group called Black International Educators. So it's not about it's the same way where I guess I could draw the parallel with the idea of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is not a movement exclusively for Black people. It's a movement where anyone who can relate and understand the movement is a part of the movement. And I think in a similar way, I think Black International Educators is for anyone who I think relates to and understand that there is a way in which there are some teachers who are not the preferred teacher out there. And that's not limited to African Americans or Caribbean people or people from, people who are considered Black by definition. Yeah. I have Arab friends who are teachers who are overlooked consistently. And I know that they're extremely qualified, but because they're Arabs, they are not necessarily looked at favorably initially. I have, having worked in El Salvador, I have friends who are Latinos. It's the same concept. So the idea of this being overlooked is not limited to any one particular demographic necessarily. Yeah. So I think once you're comfortable with the name Black International Educators, then you understand what it's all about. It's not about race in a myopic sense.
But how will you try then to create an understanding, a shared understanding of what your group is for? Because clearly in your own explanation, it's clear that you feel that there could be a misunderstanding or a feeling of exclusion for some people. So how will you try to create a shared understanding of what the purpose of the group is and who is included? What plans you have for that?
You're getting me to run ahead of myself, Miguel. But look, I think the name speaks for itself. I honestly think that anyone who is uncomfortable with the name, this is not the group for them. I think this group is about people who understand that there are some teachers, some international educators who are generally speaking overlooked. And once you're one of those persons who are overlooked, this message resonates with you. That's the way I see it. So I think the group speaks for itself. And the people who will join it are people who have had this sort of similar experience, and they can relate to this idea of being the April hire. In some cases, there are schools that I've applied to, like in El Salvador. I applied to the school in December, and they didn't even look at my resume. And then afterwards, when Joel was there, and Joel said, "Hey, there's an opening. Apply," and he applied and he networked me into the school. I checked my documents later and I realized, but I actually applied to the school earlier in the year.
Yeah.
So what happened between December and April, why I am now the candidate of choice, and in December I was like, I wasn't even shortlisted.
Yeah, but certainly, I mean, a lot of these international schools consider themselves to be extremely internationally minded. So
Yes.
there seems to be a disconnect here, some form of disconnect with what they're saying, and is that what you're intimating is happening?
Not necessarily, I don't know. I don't know what is happening. I think there is a difference between what happens in actual schools and what is the hiring policy of schools. I think I don't think we can conflate both things. I've worked in schools where I feel as if it's an international school, but then when you look around you, you don't necessarily get that same sentiment of it being an international school in terms of its hiring policy. Because every year when you look at the people who are coming in, you're wondering, why is there a certain percentage of a particular ethnic group that is being hired vis-a-vis other people? I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never worked in a school where there has been more, where maybe, if I'm lucky, 2 other Black members of staff.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky, I've never worked in a school other than that, where there's maybe 1 or 2 other Black. And if there are 3 of us on staff, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Is it that Black teachers are less qualified? I don't know, but I'm just stating observation.
Yeah. I mean, there could be reasons for that. Perhaps are Black people fully aware of the opportunities that exist in international education? Do you think?
Are the opportunities, yes, are they aware, or are they being made, or are they not just aware, are they being made aware of it? Like, is it being marketed towards different particular groupings?
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of factors. I mean, I'm not trying to say there's only one factor. The particular issue that I am trying to address is, how can we, who are international educators, firstly, network ourselves into a better position?
Yeah. So your goal here then is to create a kind of a group that within that group, the opportunities are maximized in terms of networking. So do you expect to see people posting jobs here? Is that the kind of expectation you have?
That's exactly the expectation.
What is the expectation?
That's exactly the expectation. My hope is,
okay, so
for example, in my job.
You think?
Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
All right, good. So, for example, next come August and September, whenever it is, there are openings at my school. I would put it in a group, because usually at any school, the HR will send around to staff. Hey, we have, we need a math teacher or a physics teacher or English teacher. If you know anyone, let me know, right? So when that becomes public at my school, for example, I would put it in a group, and okay. I don't know everyone in the group, but I know you, and you know somebody I don't know who probably might be a good physics teacher, and you might say to me, Donald, X person is a good physics teacher, and you might say to that person, hey, look, the person applies, or I might say, I might reach out to say who knows this person. And you say the person is good. I trust your word, Miguel. I put forward the person's resume. So it's an idea of trying to find a way in which we can help each other to maximize the benefits, because we change schools. That's a given in international education. We change schools, right? But why do we have to be nervous until April, wondering if we got a job? Why can't we be comfortable in December, saying, okay, we're moving on. Let's move. Yeah, let's move on, sorted.
When you're talking about this, you're talking about this mainly in the truly international schools.
No, I mean, my school isn't, I don't think my school is truly international. My school teaches an international curriculum, IB, but the population is predominantly Jordanians. I'm just saying any opportunity that exists, if we can share it, someone is interested, then that person then can, maximize or use it, or choose not to apply or not to apply. But
okay, so as we come to the end, I think I just want to reiterate the main focus of the group, so that that's absolutely clear, and so that we can members of the group can understand how they can benefit from the group or also contribute to the development of the group. So what would you say in a nutshell is the purpose of the group?
We all have our strengths. We have things to contribute, right? And we all need guidance and understanding how to move into particular avenues, how to move into leadership, for example, how to gain opportunities in the workspace. I think this is a forum where, as minority groupings, as Black teachers, we can share our expertise. We can share the opportunities that we know of, create an avenue and an opportunity for people within the group to benefit. And that's simply it. It's nothing complicated. It's just an opportunity for us to say, you know what, there is something at my school. Is there anyone here? And there are countless groups like that currently exist, but there is no group that actually creates a platform where we are looking out for the things that matter us as minorities, as Blacks, as Arabs, as Latinos, the specific things, issues that we deal with. You know, to put it simply, there is no one blanket that covers everyone in the world. So to have a group that is international educators, I think loses the focus of the specific issues that specific people have, right? And I think this group, for me, I have these issues. And I'm sure there are people out there who have these issues as well. So this group, I think, is a way of trying to help us deal with specific issues that we face.
All right. I'm sure that has been made absolutely clear. And I thank you for coming in and sharing this. So I think there's no more. So thank you very much for sharing that. And hopefully that helps everyone understand the purpose of the group.
Okay, Mr. Barker. Thank you very much. All right, cool.